All right, Avs Nation, what's going on? And obviously, the Colorado Avalanche they're in their offseason. And with any good offseason is a lot of rumors. And why could this year be a little bit different? Because with the Gabe Landeskog situation, should we be taking these rumors maybe a little bit more seriously than years past? With one player in particular, his name coming up a lot yesterday. We'll talk about that and a lot of other things on today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, coming at you right now.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Make sure to follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. Follow us on our YouTube channel over on YouTube. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live, and make sure to subscribe to our subtext as well. Link to that is in the show notes below. And when you subscribe, you can talk to Kyle and I one-on-one. All right. We will get to some listener questions a little bit later on, but where we are going to start today is kind of what's taken over, at least social media, for today or yesterday now, if you're listening to this on Tuesday. On Monday, it was all about one player in particular, and that's Willie Nylander from the Toronto Maple Leafs. And a lot of people are thinking the Maple Leafs have gone through this. They're at that point in time where they've done this enough. They haven't succeeded in the main goal and winning a Stanley Cup. And this was the first time they got out of the second round in, over a decade. And some people are feeling like it's just not working. They went out and got all these different pieces. Is the GM coming back? Is the head coach coming? There's so many questions up in the air with Toronto. And because of that, social media and the media at large wants to blow up the Toronto Maple Leafs. So yesterday, the sexy name was Willie Nylander. And I don't know if it's just because of the algorithm sends me a lot of, Colorado Avalanche news on Twitter, but you heard a lot of, hey, Nylander to Colorado. It makes sense. They need some help on wing with Landeskog not going to be there. Who knows what's going on with Val Nichushkin? This could make a lot of sense. So I'll start there. Does it make sense?
In a perfect world with a perfectly constructed roster with everybody who's supposed to be there, because honestly, if you look at it right now, going into next year, there are 5 rostered forwards. And you don't know what's going on with Val Nichushkin, so that might be 4.
Wow.
So let's just put that in your mind for a second. And then if you do make this move for Willie Nylander, guess who has a no move clause enacted in 2023-2024? That'd be one Willie Nylander.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be a kind of let me make sure I get this correct, a moot point.
Right.
For he is commanding close to what we are getting relief from with Gabe Landeskog.
So he's got a no move clause in the last year of that deal.
Isn't that something?
Because so they if they're going to move him, they're going to move him now then. Because it's he does. I'm looking at it carefully. Wow, you give him. That's pretty smart on his end, I guess. To enact that in his contract, the last year of his deal, he can't be moved unless he has say so.
Yes.
That's surprising that Toronto would be okay with that, because that's usually when you get rid of guys if things aren't going your way, right?
And that's good. That's good business on his part and his camp. Way to go, Willie Nylander. Way to really make good money and business decision there. But you're going in order to get Willie Nylander, he's going to have to waive that clause. He has his list. It's one of those that you make your list of 10. You submit it to the league. Is Colorado on that list? If he wants to move, does he want to be part of? Because you heard Dubas in his remarks about nothing is off the table. Talking about if he's sticking around because he wants to stick around, does he want to be part of what Toronto is building? Does he want to get out of there and get away from the Toronto media? There's a lot of questions around. And is Colorado in a place where they can make that move, knowing they have to put forwards in there somewhere to play with Willie Nylander?
Well, I think this is the interesting thing with the Avalanche right now is normally, I would say not like this always happens with the Avalanche, right? They always get attached to a name and a bigger name. I'm not saying Nylander is this massive name, but he's a darn good player, right? And the Avs always seem to get attached to these guys. And in the end, it just doesn't work out because the money's not there. They don't like to give up young prospects. The Avalanche are very methodical about they just don't throw caution to the wind. It's like, yeah, well, this is not the Avalanche of years past, right? Where they would kind of do stuff like that. But they don't do it anymore. And they're very cautious about what they bring in. I think the Landeskog situation where he's not playing, I think that changes things a little bit for them. And we were saying how, we kind of feel like they're going to bring in a guy, a 1-year deal to kind of replace him just for that 1 year and then reassess where they think Landeskog is a year from now. And to do that, you'd probably have to get a guy later on in his career who's still very good and maybe like one last push to all that stuff. Right. But you could do something like this, depending on what you have to give up. And here's where it gets interesting for the Avalanche. I don't think we had someone ask about it. Well, I'll bring that up in a second. But if I don't feel like the Avalanche are going to sacrifice a lot of draft capital and prospects that would benefit Toronto beyond next year, when all they're going to get in return is maybe a 1-year rental.
Yeah.
Because now you've given up picks and prospects that are not coming back, and you have Nylander for 1 year, and then if he he signs elsewhere, you've given up all of that, and you got basically nothing in return. If it works, if you do that and you win a Stanley Cup, then obviously that's a great, but it's very difficult to predict that, right? So I just feel like if you're going to go the trade route, what are you going to give up? And I think if Toronto is going to trade Nylander because he's got 1 year left on his deal and you want to get some stuff in return for him, kind of change the dynamic there. Well, the same could be true for the Avalanche. You could go give up somebody that's in their last year of a deal. And I hate to say this name, but it could be someone like Devon Toews. Because it could be very tough to sign him. Like, he is going into the last year of his deal. And I know the Avalanche want to keep him. Everybody in that front office wants to keep him. But I think this comes down to, again, the business side of things rather than just we want to keep everybody that we like and that's good for our team. I think it's going to be very tough. What would we say that Taves is making like $4.1 million.
Yep.
He is getting a sizable increase that I don't think the Avalanche can match unless they make other moves. If they free up cap space because they're like, nope, the decision that we're going to make and who we're going to keep, we're keeping Taves. Okay, then you have to make other moves and give up guys, again, that you probably don't want to give up, like Sam Girard. But if they don't go that route, if they don't feel like they can fit all of those guys under the cap, including Bo Byram, who's getting an increase, Devon Toews might be, and I hate to say it, a cap casualty because you get rid of them. So now it's like, okay, which guy do you want more? Because you're going to have one of them for 1 year. Do you feel like you can get 1 year out of Devon Toews and go further? Or do you give him up and get a much needed position back in Nylander and get him for 1 year?
Yeah,
It's a very difficult question the Avalanche have to answer.
yeah, because Nylander is a point per game player.
Sure is.
He would be an incredible addition to the roster, but then you got to, and I mentioned what the roster is going to look like and what you have to put together and have a full team for opening puck drop. It's going to be a challenge, so you're going to have to start losing players. Do you want to make that big splash and have that help from Nylander? Do you want to call your depth to step up, or do you want to make a little move and go out there and go get maybe a Kyler Yamamoto, who's half the price, but more of a gamble? And then, Nick Bonino, his deal's running out in Pittsburgh. There's some leadership for you, and he's going to be on the cheap for maybe $1 million. Yes, he's old, but you could plug him in, get Yamamoto and Nick Bonino. There's some options there where you're not giving up too much, but you have to be very cautious. Like I said, going into this conversation, this is a normal Avalanche year. I might be listening, but like you said, if this is what you want, you're not going to enjoy what you have to give up.
Right. Because where are you more comfortable right now? With your forwards or your defensemen?
Yeah.
Defensemen.
Exactly.
So you can kind of give one of them up if you have to solidify your forwards, because you're hurting in the forwards department right now. And you're okay on the defense. Even if you give up Taves, actually in our next segment, we'll talk about a question that was brought up from a listener, one of our very fine listeners who brought up a question on bringing someone back. You obviously have to fill that role if you give up someone like Devon Taves or whoever even if it was Sam Girard, you'd have to fill that role. But it's a tough angle that the Avalanche have right now. In if you want him, and I don't see why you wouldn't, you got to give something up. And that's the downside of this right now. And I've said it before. This has visions of Nazem Kadri 2.0. And I had to give up Tyson Barrie to get him.
I will say this in closing of this topic. This offseason for the Colorado Avalanche is going to be pivotal on where the Avalanche trajectory is going to be in the next couple of years. This offseason can define if Colorado is going to be a repeat of the St. Louis Blues or if this is going to be a Chicago Blackhawks Cup dynasty. Because we could keep subscribing to, no, this works, just trust me on this, and you could be stuck with nothing but Jordan Binnington. Because that's what St. Louis did.
We'll see, man. I am going to be fascinated by the Avalanche offseason, that's for sure. We'll get to a couple listener questions, and there's one. Nylander was the hot name yesterday, but there's another one out there that has been thrown around a little bit, and I think that might be kind of similar road that the Avalanche might have to go down, or maybe would at least entertain going down. So we will talk about that in a second. But first, we're going to hear from Game Time and the Game Time app. And buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. And Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you're about to have. And what are some of the things that we like about the Game Time app? They got the flash deals on last-minute tickets, easy to find your tickets and buy them for every kind of event in your area. The images of the seat view is absolutely key. Lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and even job loss protection. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So again, create your account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off with the Game Time app. So go download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. So there was a question by, I want to get his name. Mielke. Is that like just a different way to say Mike? Milk photography 35. He throws this out. He says new hook, Ben Myers, and a pick. Maybe it would have to be a first for Elias Lindholm. Now it's kind of the same situation as Nylander, and Nylander is making How did they come up with this number? 6.962366.
It's because he signed the deal after the season started.
How do you get that number?
It's at a
the prorated amount?
Yes, it's a prorated amount. He got front-loaded contract. I think it was $10 million in the first year in 2018. Okay. Oh, I'm channeling my inner Steve Dangle here on Leaf stuff, but yeah, it was $10 million.
Amazing.
$10 million in his first year, and then
so that makes sense then.
Yeah.
Okay. And Lindholm is making 4.85. And he will be in the last year of his deal as well, going into last year or to next year. Let me see what his stats were. I mean, then they had a rough year at it last year. The Flames did, but go ahead.
To Malk's point, I would, with that $4 million price tag, Newhook and Ben Myers alone on the upside should be enough. I don't think you would have to dip into the draft pick.
No, and I don't think the Avalanche will dip into this draft anyway.
Yeah.
If they didn't get rid of it during last year's trade deadline or this year's trade deadline, I don't think they're going to give it up now, even though the need is there for some help in the forward position. They had multiple opportunities to get rid of it and they didn't. So it's just tough to fathom that they would get rid of it now. Lindholm, down year, and a lot of Calgary did. But last year, exactly a point per player game, 82 games played, 82 points. This past year, 80 games played, 64 points. So, wow. In 2021-22, he was a plus 61. In last year, he was a plus 6. Now, I know plus minus is a trivial stat, but that's pretty impressive, a plus 61. But that is something that I would you might be able to get him for a lot cheaper than what Nylander would cost you.
And you have the quote unquote Avalanche effect that will improve him a little bit. So
definitely. And he's a centerman.
Which
where Nylander is more of the winger than a center.
Especially when you could possibly be losing JT Compher as well.
Exactly. So I think that's I like that he brought that up because I think that's more of a
he might be onto something here.
He could be. Definitely could be. And there's another one here by our good friend Alan. We haven't heard from Alan in a while. And
my brother from another mother.
If you're an everydayer from way back in the day, Alan runs the Ryan Graves fan club. Even got to meet him a couple times. And
that's right.
Hung out with him for after a game. He asks if Ryan Graves goes out in the market, the Avs bring him back. Now, this is not that far-fetched for a couple reasons. One, the Avalanche seem to be liking this thing of bringing back old faces. So there's that part of it. And if you do get rid of someone like Devon Toews, you do have good defensemen like waiting in the wings, but they're not ready yet. You will need someone to replace Devon Toews. Ryan Graves can't replace what Toews does defensively, right? But you would need a body there. I don't know if Graves would be that guy to fill his role, but he would fill a role. And that's something maybe the Avs go down. Who knows?
But he could replace the production of a Josh Manson who sits at a nice $4 million a year.
I don't think the Avs are giving up on him right now. He had a rough go of it last year with all those injuries. But I know what you're saying. I think right now, man, everything is on the table. I feel
exactly
for the Avs. I really feel that way. What was Graves making last year?
Didn't he also get like a 3.3? Wasn't it similar to like a Crosby contract?
Like his number?
Yeah.
3.166.
That wasn't
close. So that's $1 million less than what Toews is making now. So these are all things that the Avalanche have to consider. So I don't know if they do it because they would want to replace Toews with somebody that kind of fits his style, right? You would think that they would try to do that at least. And or if you do bring in Graves, then you're promoting Bo Byram basically and saying like that is the replacement is Bo Byram full time, full stop.
I was just about to say this is why you spend this year in like a covert ops operation. Call up somebody from Loveland and say, "Hey, you see that number 7? You want that position? This is your year. Show me you got it."
Right.
And then you make your decision.
But do you think the Avalanche are a little bit hesitant to do that with the Alex Newhook situation and handing him the keys to the 2C? Or you think the Avalanche have a little bit of
after last
trepidation?
year? Everyone in Loveland, what are you waiting on? Like what you saw last year in the season with injuries and needing depth, like that's what depth is coming from, is supposed to be Loveland. So if you're not there, then everybody's up for grabs.
Well, that's one thing I'm really interested to see for this training camp is how much do the Avalanche dip into the Eagles?
Yeah.
And say, like, they're going to try to do what they can do in the offseason. If the offseason doesn't go the way that they want to go and fill a lot of those needs, the only thing they have left is some of these young guys who they have to throw in there, like Ranta, give him another go at it. Obviously, Foodie. You have a number of guys that could, but they're not ready yet. They're not ready to take on that role. But you don't want the offseason to go poorly for the Avs, and then they're forced into that situation.
Yeah.
Because they're not just going to go, you don't want them to just go sign bodies. Like if all the guys that they want kind of fell through and signed elsewhere, and then you're just kind of, okay, this is all that's left. Let's just take, like, you don't want to do that.
Let's get 5 Nicolas Aube-Kubels, please.
Man, I am fascinated. I continue. The more we talk about it, the more fascinated I am.
I know
how the Avalanche are going to navigate this offseason. Yeah, like I said before, everything is on the table. A couple more questions to get to, but first, why don't we hear from Athletic Greens, and then we'll get to a couple fun questions. We'll finish up with those. But Athletic Greens, if you're wondering what exactly is this, you put 1 scoop of AG1 into a glass of water, and you are absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, aging, everything that's important to you. And it is lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or even gluten-free. And it contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, there's no nasty chemical taste or artificial anything, and it tastes pretty amazing. And it costs you less than $3 a day. And when you're investing in your health, what could be cheaper than that? It's even cheaper than your cold brew and coffee habit. So right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day, and that's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. So to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Once again, it's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, let's get to these last couple questions here. They were some good ones. Which one are we going to do here? Why don't we go with jersey? Someone, what's his name? K Steel 12. Next jersey that you're going to buy. What are you going to get?
Up until the playoffs, I would have said a Brandon Tanev Seattle Kraken jersey. But you know what? It's going to be a while for that purchase. Yeah. No, I have to get a Trevor Zegras Ducks jersey.
You are a big Zegras fan.
I love him.
You are. And do you have because we all know like your East Coast team is the Devils. Do you have like a Hughes jersey?
You bet.
You do. I didn't know if you did or not. I knew you had a Mackenzie Blackwood jersey.
I have a PK Subban, like the white, like the red and green Christmas tree one.
Those are cool.
I have a Mackenzie Blackwood, and I have an authentic on ice Jack Hughes jersey.
Okay, I should have known.
There's a whole area of the Temple of Doom that nobody ever sees.
Yeah. And I'm with you on like the Kraken stuff. Like but I don't know who. I almost want just a blank one, just a blank.
I love
And the
Brendan
Kraken, the
I love
Kraken jerseys. They're one of the few jerseys where I like their white away more than their home.
Yeah,
I do.
I like that the dark and the way that like teal pops off of it.
Mm.
I'm telling you, I'm very angry at that team, but
Mhm.
the marketing department for that team, congratulations on the best logo jersey combo right out of the gate I've seen in
They
quite
nailed
some
it.
time in
because
any
the
sport.
Vegas one was so ugly, and it
Yeah,
still is. Just I don't
it's
like that color combination. I don't like the name. I don't. Everydayers know I can't stand Vegas, so I won't give them credit for anything. Speaking of game going, we're recording this during Game 7.
mhm.
Just want to check the score of that real quick here. 2-0 Dallas with 2 minutes to go.
Oh yeah.
So it's looking like the season for the Seattle Kraken is coming to an
Oh,
end.
we got to hear more of that goal song.
So for me, I don't know. I think the next jersey I would buy for an Avalanche one is probably Georgiev. I think I would buy Georgiev. You know he's going to be there for a couple more years, hopefully even longer if they can re-sign him when his contract's up. But the last goalie Avalanche jersey I bought was a Semyon Varlamov jersey.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's the last goalie jersey I bought, an Avs goalie jersey.
I need a David Abisher.
Ooh, that'd be a good one.
That would be a
That'd
good one.
Yeah. So I think I'd go the Georgiev route. So, but I have like the summer is terrible for me. I have so many birthdays with family members. Like I have to put jersey buying on hold.
Yeah, and it's
for the
hard to
off-season.
buy. It's hard to be in like jersey mode in the summer when it's 110 degrees.
Yeah. I still do it though. I suffer because they just look awesome. And finally, Maddie Talk asks, who are you guys rooting for and against to win the cup? Now, when we answered this was before this game went off, and we kind of now know, unless Seattle pulls off some miracle here in the last minute and 59 seconds. What was your answer prior to?
It would have been. I'll just be. If the Avalanche are knocked out, I root for chaos. I want the league to crumble. I want the worst Stanley Cup matchup. I'm bitter the rest of the playoffs. So I was pulling for Seattle, and if now that they're out, let's go Florida.
Okay. All right. And I think a lot of people would have that, especially with Florida being the 8th seed. They kind of have that underdog mentality, which if you're really watching them, they're really not. But hey, when you're tagged with the 8th seed, you're going to have that title. So I think, for the lack of rooting interest people, they'll see that and say, like, yeah, I'm going for Florida. But who do you not want to see win it? Or
Carolina.
You don't want Carolina.
No.
And is there a reason for that?
I have never believed in what Carolina is putting together, and the last thing I want is for them to get the cup and believe that what they're putting together is right, because I don't think that team is comprised correctly at all.
I mean, they've been there year after year.
So is Toronto.
They're knocking on the door. No, but Toronto's never been knocking on the door quite like Carolina. Carolina has been in the mix much more than Toronto has.
They are a fluky team and a rock tumbler.
And I say this because that's who I am pulling for most probably right now is Carolina. And part of it is because one of my best friends lives in Carolina. And when I get to this point, like if my team is out, who do my friends root for? And unless it's the Vegas Golden Knights, I'll pull for that team just to see my friends be happy.
Yeah.
And therein lies my team that I do not want to see win it, and that is Vegas by a mile. I will take the 3 other teams by far. I'd be okay with even Dallas, even being in the division, but I do not want to see Vegas. I cannot stand that franchise. I cannot stand their social media posts. They drive me crazy. So no, I will be rooting for Detroit, or excuse me, for Dallas heavy in this series.
I will tell you right now, if Rod Brind'Amour wins the Stanley Cup, you will never hear Jared Bednar's name mentioned in Jack Adams ever again. He will never be credited with coaching jobs for the Colorado Avalanche. If Rod the Bod Brind'Amour wins the Stanley Cup, it is Bednar's name. will never be mentioned again.
I don't know if I agree with that. They'll have to win.
We hear about Rod the Bod every chance we get.
You'll hear it for a solid year. That's for sure. I mean, they're the champs. I just brought up Vegas as cap friendly. You know what their cap hit is right now?
It's got to be like minus $15 million.
It's 96. We'll round up $96.5 million.
Oofda.
Because they play the LTIR game every single year and get away with it because it's legal, but they don't care that they do it because they have no morals whatsoever. And why would they? Your team's playing in Vegas, the moralless city. So that's going to wrap it up. Yeah, that's going to wrap it up for today, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. We'll be back tomorrow. We have Alexander Georgiev is going to be up for his grade. So check your social medias if you want to get in on the voting and comment wherever you vote as to why you graded him that, and we'll read it on the air. All right, it's going to wrap it up, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is he is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys tomorrow.